Greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet. Today we are going to be talking about people and profits. Now, a few weeks back, I did a video on a large strike that was going on in Topeka, Kansas, out at the Lay's manufacturing plant. You know Lay's. They're a division of PepsiCo. They make all the finest O's of the PepsiCo. The Doritos, the Tostitos, I don't know, maybe even the Cheerios. It was a whole lot of O's. The problem was none of the O's were appearing on the paychecks of their employees, but rather in their profitability column in their ledger just before their stock prices would go up every quarter so that shareholders would get more money. However, after weeks of striking and lots of coverage on that strike and hearing about exactly what Lay's was demanding of their employees, there was a lot of public backlash, and Lay's eventually came to the negotiating table and offered a deal that the union found acceptable. And thus, organized labor and collective bargaining got to put up a rare one in the W column against the corporate forces that seek to constantly grind down the working class. So, it is just a few weeks later, and there is another very similar story and similar labor issue in the news. So today, I thought we would take a look at what another group of workers are dealing with for the billion-dollar corporation they are providing labor and profits for, and then maybe we'll discuss how we could all help these fine folk and fellow members of the working class get to the next level and maybe, I don't know, put up another one of those W's. Here we go. We're peons to them. Nabisco factory workers on why they're striking. Now, before we get into this very quickly, I just want to remind you all that Nabisco is its own company underneath the umbrella of the corporation of Mondelez Foods. And the reason that Nabisco is over there with Mondelez Foods is because initially all of these offerings were under the umbrella of Kraft Foods, which became so large they were threatened with monopoly violations. And so, a few years back, opted to split into Kraft Foods and Mondelez International. Mondelez International mostly has Nabisco and a few other brands. We will get to the list in just a moment. The pandemic drove many people to the cookie jar and helped Nabisco, maker of Oreos, Chips Ahoy, Fig Newtons, and other sweet treats, weather the worst of the outbreak. But as the company's profits continue to recover, workers at its U.S. plants are striking over the outsourcing of jobs to Mexico and concessions that are being demanded by their employer in their new union contract negotiations. Hey, wow, they're actually in a union, so they actually get to negotiate for their wages. Hey, for like the 80% of you who live in the United States of America and aren't part of a union, I just want you to know that whatever your job is, chances are, at one point, 20, 50, 70 years ago, there was a union that would represent you and you actually got to negotiate for your wages and working conditions. Could you imagine what a trip that must be, huh? Yeah, there's still people who get to do that. They're called unionists. You should maybe check out your local unions if you're in a workplace that currently does not have a union representing its employees. But I digress. Let me continue. On August 10th, about 200 workers in Portland, Oregon, represented by the bakery, confectionery, tobacco workers, and grain millers, went on strike. Union workers in Aurora, Colorado, began their strike on the 12th, followed by those in Richmond, Virginia on the 16th, and Chicago, Illinois on the 19th. Why? Because solidarity is a verb. And when one branch of your union goes on strike somewhere for better conditions, and you work for the same parent company, well then your local union goes on strike too. Why? Because it gives added pressure and leverage to employees. Throughout the pandemic, Nabisco's parent company, Mondelez International, has recorded billions in profits. In the second quarter of 2021 alone, the company reported more than $5.5 billion in profits, not revenue, profits. And that was just in a quarter. And they spent $1.5 billion of that $5.5 billion in profit on stock buybacks in the first half of 2021, thus trying to bump up the price of the stock so that shareholders get higher returns. Surely, if the company's being so gosh darn profitable, then they're paying their workers well, right? Mondelez Foods, right, Nabisco? You're totally doing that, right? Because you made $5.5 billion in profit in one quarter, so surely you're paying your employees well and taking good care of the people who are laboring extra hard to make sure you earn extra huge profits. Right, Nabisco? The CEO of Mondelez International received $16.8 million in total compensation back in 2020, which is 544 times the company's median employee annual compensation of $31,000 a year. So no, you're just paying a very select handful of employees really well, and those are all people in positions of leadership who have stock options. Quote, "It's greed. They don't have any respect for their workers that gave them the opportunity to make that kind of money. We're peons to them, and everyone is at the point where enough is enough," said Darlene Carpenter, business agent of Local 358 in Richmond and former employee at the plant. "We're at the point where we're saying this is how the cookie is going to crumble now because we can't do this." Cookie humor. You get it, right, folks? All jokes aside, this is exactly what happened to the Lay's plant in Topeka, Kansas. The corporation used the pandemic as an excuse to drive workers past the brink of safe working conditions. They had people working 7 days in a row, working 12-hour shifts, and they had them doing this for months while hailing them as heroes. Well, now after, all that praise and all the press releases and all the snazzy TV commercials about how the people who make these snacks are, the real heroes because they provided comfort to so many Americans during the pandemic, well, now that we no longer care about the good feels marketing of people who were forced to work during a pandemic, well, now those workers are being asked to give up all their overtime pay and concede to a two-tier healthcare system, which would downgrade benefits for new employees and cut overall wages. That's the negotiation. That's the offer. Hey guys, thanks for helping us make $5.5 billion in profit in the last quarter. To say thank you, we're going to not pay you overtime and give you even shittier health care because we care about our workers, I guess. Quote, "They're doing well. We're losing all the way around. They shut down 2 plants this year. They're cutting overtime. They're making profits, but we lost half our union membership. How is it that we are supposedly doing well?" This is a very good question because, again, press releases and statements from these corporations love to exalt how awesome their workforce is and how well taken care of they are and how the company really cares about their needs and the local community that all these workers work in. The ones who have a median salary in the United States of America as a full-time employee of $31,000 a year before taxes. Now, as I alluded to before, when you're dealing with organized labor, when you're dealing with unions, well, you're dealing with people who will go out of their way to help each other out because they understand that as a member of a union in the working class, if those people get a better deal, then I have more leverage to get a better deal so that the company that made $5.5 billion in profits in one quarter could maybe come off just a little bit of that so that every last employee can have a much better quality of life. This is what organized labor and union membership is all about. And so, in that vein, this weekend, members of more than a dozen different local unions who are not sister or parent unions to the union at the plant, they all came out in Portland and stood strong and made enough noise that all the media came out to cover this, even though the strike has been going on for more than 2 weeks. Why? Because this is eye-catching. This is worthy of note. This is labor organizing and members of the working class coming together to make demands instead of asking for things. Bakery workers at the Nabisco cookie plant in North Portland entered the 12th day of their strike on Saturday after union members walked out back on August 10th. Representatives of the Local 364 said workers decided to go on strike after 3 weeks of negotiations with Mondelez International, aka the people who own Nabisco. According to the union, one of the major sticking points was a proposal to shift employees to 7-day alternating shift work week and remove overtime pay for weekends. Quote, "These guys worked through the pandemic making all these snack products for this company, working record time at record hours. This company made record profits, and they come to the table and they want takeaways. It's disgusting." And for the record, that is how you make a quote, and that is how you make sure you get coverage. You let everybody know that the company making billions of dollars a year in profit are engaging in disgusting labor practices and unfair negotiation with their workers who they just made $5.5 billion off of. According to a statement from Mondelez, the company is disappointed that union employees decided to walk out. After 3 weeks of them demanding that the union take less pay and less benefits, they're somehow surprised and offended and feel bad that those union people finally put their hands up and told them to go fuck themselves. Yeah, that's a real shocker there, Mondelez. The company said its goal has always been to bargain in good faith with its employees, but it has now activated a plan to continue production while workers remain on strike. Quote, "We've activated our robust business community plan and are committed to continuing to supply our delicious snacks to retailers and consumers." For the record, the community business plan, yeah, that's either A, they're going to lease prison labor, people who got sentenced 10 years for owning a plant. Yeah, those people. They're going to get those people to work for 16 cents an hour, grinding out your cookies for you. Woohoo! Yeah, those Chips Ahoy cookies. Hey, you want to know why they taste so darn different? Yeah, because the special ingredient is repression. And if they're not using prisoners, don't worry, they're just going to use untrained scabs. People that they hire from Labor Depot for $8 an hour who have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and they're going to go throw them on a fucking automated, mechanized production line that is of questionable safety, even to the well-trained unionists who normally work there. So in other words, Nabisco and Mondelez International, they do not give a fuck about anybody. They don't care about their employees. They don't care about their scabs. Hell, they don't even care about their customers or the communities in which all their employees and customers live in. All they care about is record profits equaling record buybacks. Why? Because that leads to a record stock price. And if you don't believe me, well, look, I've got it right here. Look, it's the Mondelez stock price. Oh, what's that? They're currently trading for $63 a share, and it's their literal all-time high? Wow, that's amazing. And they're up 215% since their record low of sub $20 a share back in 2009. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. It's almost like when you make $5.5 billion in profits in a quarter and then you buy back $1.5 billion of your own stock. Your stock price keeps going up and your shareholders make great revenues, and you do that on the backs of asking your employees to take less money but to keep working on weekends and have less health benefits. That's the corporate plan. That's the path to profitability. So you'll have to excuse me for, using salty language and getting all worked up at the thought of a few thousand corporate shareholders getting, record dividend checks while employees are literally forced to work 84 hours a week during a pandemic and then told that they have to take less pay and even less medical benefits on the heels of those record profits. So, what can I do? Well, I can make a video and scream and pass it around and make sure everybody knows that the people at Nabisco and Mondelez International are literal pieces of garbage. What can you do as the average consumer and fellow member of the working class to show some solidarity and put some pressure on these absolute, horrible, disgusting excuses for human beings who want to extract the maximum amount of profitability out of other human beings because, yay, line goes up and I really want a fourth vacation house? Well, to start with, you can boycott the shit out of Nabisco and their products. Yeah, that's right. All that Cadbury chocolate, all those Chips Ahoy cookies. Oh yeah, there's a whole list. You could just go online and type in Nabisco products. Give them nothing. Until next time, my name is James. I am from the internet, and I am out. Peace.